Wendy Williams, fearless, funny, and unfiltered, took a daytime talk show and turned it into a daily ritual. Long before the wigs, the how you doing and the studio applause, she was a voice in quiet radio rooms, certain that if she kept talking honestly, people would listen. They did. For decades, millions tuned in at noon, not just for celebrity chatter, but for the comfort of a host who said out loud what others only whispered. And yet behind the bright set and the bigger-than-L life persona, Wendy's life carried grief, illness, betrayal, and losses that would test anyone's spirit. At 61, she's still facing storms most of us can only imagine, and doing it in the open. If Wendy once kept you company on a tough afternoon, send her some love. She earned it. Wendy Joan Williams was born July 18, 1964 in Asbury Park, New Jersey, the middle child of educators Thomas and Shirley Williams. From the outside, it looked like a stable, achievement-oriented family. Inside, Wendy felt measured, sometimes literally. After unrest in 1970 pushed the family to Ocean Township, she found herself one of the few black students in class. The loneliness was real. At home, food turned into a scorecard. By 12, she faced weekly weigh-ins and constant monitoring. "I was just a kid, but they were already watching every bite I took," she'd later say. Teachers called her hyper. Doctors prescribed medication that made her feel boxed in. The message she absorbed: too big, too loud, too much. Those early judgments hurt, but they also forged the steel she would need later. Fresh out of Northeastern University in 1986, Wendy took her first radio job in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. The scenery was paradise. The reality was not. The pay was low, the isolation heavy, and after a few months she quit, broke, exhausted, and wondering if she'd misread her calling. Back on the mainland, she mailed demo tapes by the stack. Silence. Then finally, a break. 1989 brought opportunities in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. She was 22, and before long she landed at Power 99. While others kept it light, Wendy spoke plainly. She made celebrity news into must-hear radio and began shaping the segment that would later become Hot Topics. By 1994, she'd climbed to WBLS in New York. There she did what few dared. She mixed candor about her own life, including substance struggles and miscarriages, with the day's headlines. Listeners felt the difference. She wasn't just a personality. She was a person. The vulnerability drew people closer, even as it made every broadcast feel like walking a tightrope. In 2008, at 44, The Wendy Williams Show launched in national syndication. It didn't look or sound like other daytime shows. Wendy was direct, funny, and disarmingly open. "How you doing?" became a national catchphrase. For 13 seasons, she dominated a space that rarely crowned black women, earning awards attention and a fiercely loyal audience. But the same candor that made her a phenomenon also made her a target. Social media clipped every line. Tabloids circled. Criticism followed every misstep. Still, she showed up 5 days a week, nearly 1 hour a day, researching, rewriting, rehearsing, and then throwing it all aside to be in the moment. The sparkle was real, but so was the strain. In 1994, at 30, Wendy married Bertrand Bert Giraudier. The union was brief. She was still fighting a cocaine dependency, and the marriage frayed fast. By 1995, it was over. No children, just the ache of a dream that didn't hold. Soon after, she met Kevin Hunter. He studied her, and in November 1999, at 35, they married. What followed was joy and heartbreak in equal measure. There were multiple miscarriages, grief that Wendy later spoke about with uncommon honesty. Then in 2000, a miracle. "The birth of Kevin Hunter Jr. is my saving grace," she said. Together, she and Kevin started the Hunter Foundation, channeling their story into help for other families. But the marriage cracked. Kevin's infidelity went public brutally. It wasn't just personal betrayal. He was also her manager and a partner in her ventures. The fallout tore through their home and their business. In 2019, after 20 years of marriage, Wendy filed for divorce. By early 2020, it was finalized. She kept her show and her name, but the cost was steep. The deepest wound. Knowing her son had to witness the family come apart not long after the divorce. Another blow, the loss of her mother, Shirley Williams, in 2020. Shirley was Wendy's anchor, steady, gentle, and present through the highs and lows. "Grief like that doesn't fit on camera. It was like the bottom dropped out of my life," Wendy said. The show continued, but the spark dimmed. Sometimes even the strongest performers are simply daughters who miss their moms. Halloween 2017 brought a live on-air collapse. Dressed as the Statue of Liberty, Wendy fainted. She returned minutes later smiling bravely. But it wasn't a TV stunt. It was a warning. Graves' disease and thyroid issues had been draining her for years. The fatigue, the swelling, the trembling hands, some days just getting through an hour, was a victory. In May 2020, she suffered a serious health scare at home and needed multiple blood transfusions. After that, crisis became caution. Then came lymphedema, painful swelling in her legs. The woman who made stilettos a signature moved to compression wraps and 45-minute machine sessions to keep lymph fluid moving. "I can't wear heels the way I used to," she admitted. Not vanity identity? By 2021, guest hosts regularly filled her chair. And in June 2022, the Wendy Williams Show aired its final episode. The closing credits rolled without Wendy on stage, a quiet, devastating punctuation mark. Later in 2022, a New York court placed Wendy under financial guardianship, determining she could no longer manage her own affairs. For someone whose life's work was speaking without permission, it was a painful shift. Reports suggest that the fortune once estimated around $40 million has narrowed significantly. Some estimates place it between $0.5 million and $1 million. After legal costs, medical expenses, and the end of the show, her homes have changed too. The large Livingston, New Jersey property she'd shared with Kevin is gone. So is the Miami escape. She rebuilt after a 2012 fire in her Manhattan apartment. Today, decisions around real estate and finances go through others. What she still treasures are the things she earned and loved. More than 300 wigs, a museum of handbags from Birkin to Chanel, and memories of shoes that once clicked across studio floors. In 2024, doctors disclose what many feared: primary progressive aphasia, PPA, and frontotemporal dementia, FTD. For a woman who built a life with words, PPA's slow erosion of language is a cruel symmetry. FTD can change judgment and behavior. The person who leaned forward and asked, "How you doing?" now sometimes wrestles to finish a sentence. It's not a scandal. It's a disease. And in sharing it, she chose dignity and truth. Again, even in this new chapter, the essentials are clear. Wendy remains one of the very few Black women to dominate American daytime talk for 13 seasons. She made confession a bridge, not a stunt. She converted gossip into a shared ritual. She gave people community at lunch. Her greatest treasure isn't the show or the wardrobe. It's her son, Kevin Hunter Jr., born 2000 after so much loss. He is still her anchor. And for him, she isn't an icon. She's mom. So what's the lesson of Wendy Williams? That honesty can build an empire, but it costs energy, privacy, and sometimes peace. That fame can amplify love and betrayal. That money can do plenty, but not everything. And that true strength often looks like showing up one more day, even when the heels have to stay in the closet. If Wendy's voice ever made you laugh, think, or feel less alone, send a heart and a "how you doing" in her direction. May the chapters ahead bring her comfort, care, and dignity. She lived loudly, loved fiercely, and told the truth even when it hurt. That echo doesn't fade.